So in the early days of polymer pistols becoming a viable self-defense solution, there were only really two names in the game: Glock and Smith and Wesson. Now, yes, there were other pistols out there. I'm not saying there weren't, but those were the two big hitters in the arena. Glock with their Gen 3 and M&P with their original version. Now, both of those guns had their downfalls. Glock's Gen 3 frame textures, minus the RTF2, was a little bit subpar. They didn't have a defined beaver tail, so it was really easy to get slide bite. Their accuracy was meh, and their triggers were absolute dog crap. M&P, not to be outdone, also had their share of issues. Also had subpar grip texturing, and also had what is one of my least favorite triggers in all of like the mainstream striker fire guns out there. Now, Glock came out with the Gen 3 in 1998. Smith and Wesson retorted with the M&P in 2005. 5 years after that, Glock came out with their Gen 4 that solved some of those problems. Grip texturing changed, the frame shape changed, making a good gun more versatile. Now, M&P bounced back with their 2.0, which increased the grip texturing, made a couple of other small changes, and improved the trigger a little bit, but it still maintained that hinged trigger that you found in the first one. Then Glock came out with the Gen 5, increased grip texturing, better frames, better triggers, and better sight options. Well, finally Smith and Wesson fired back with their new 2.0 with the flat trigger, and that is why we're here today. Let's get to work. Hey guys, Work here. Welcome back to Work the Trigger. Today we're going to be doing a comparison of the M&P 2.0 with the new flat trigger and the Glock 19 Gen 5. So we're starting inside today to go over some of the aspects of the pistols before we hit the range and shoot them. Let's start with the Glock 19. So the Glock 19 is a quintessential compact carry firearm. The length is 7.28 inches, overall width at the widest point is 1.34 inches, and the height including the magazine is 5.04 inches, with an unloaded weight including magazine of about 1 pound 8.3 ounces. Now the M&P here has an overall length of 7.25 inches, a width of 1.3 inches, and a height of 5 inches, making them basically identical in size. And the weight on the M&P is 1 pound 9.6 ounces, so all in all, these two guns are extremely similar in size. Now let's talk about price and what you get for that. With the M&P here, you can find these usually between about $575 and $650. $650 being like the extreme high end, like you probably will get it for significantly less than that. $600 seems to be about the going rate for these. When you get the M&P, what you get is 2 magazines, a full assortment of optics plates because this is an optics ready model, actual co-witnessing suppressor height sights, and an unfortunate cardboard box. Now, does that cardboard box matter that much? I personally don't keep my guns in the boxes. However, if you do keep your guns in the boxes, that might be a big deal and you might have to go out and get one of those. But the fact that this includes both optics plates and co-witness sights makes this pistol the only pistol for under $800 that comes fully optics ready. And when I say fully optics ready, I mean with the stuff in the box, you can toss a dot on this gun and you can be ready to roll with backup iron sights the way it should be. Now the Glock 19 here comes in a couple of different flavors. This particular one is a non-MOS version, meaning it does not have an optics cut. Now, these can be had from about $550 up depending on other things, particularly sights. This does have Ameriglow sights as an upgrade, but the stock sights are the stock Glock plastic sights. The Smith and Wesson sights are metal. Now the optics ready versions of these usually go for between $600 to $650 and come as mostly optics ready. They do come with a complete assortment of metal plates to be able to put on the MOS system here, but they do not have co-witnessing iron sights, so mostly optics ready. You can throw an optic on a stock MOS gun and you can be pretty much good to go. Not quite as good as the Smith and Wesson. Now your features of the two guns, let's go ahead and start at the bottom and work our way up. The Smith and Wesson's grip and grip texturing is relatively ergonomic. Not as ergonomic as some of the guns. I think both CZ and Walther have a little bit more of an ergonomic feel than the Smith here, but it is significantly more ergonomic than, say, a Glock. The grip texturing is excellent. I don't know what to call it, like maybe a rubble texture. It's extremely grippy, but not grippy to the point where it's gonna like make you rash or something if it's rubbing up against raw skin. And it's in all the right places. We get a little bit more grip up the back strap here. We've got it nicely laid out in both the front and the rear, and this does have removable and replaceable back straps, just like the majority of current polymer guns. Working up from that, we have ambidextrous slide stop slide release, and we have their new trigger. Now let's talk about this trigger really quick. The new M&P trigger is a drastic improvement personally to their old trigger. I did not like the cantilever trigger, the 2-piece trigger that they used to use. I felt like it gave me a little too much variability in the trigger pull and made me unsure. This gets rid of all of that. Here we have a standard trigger. It is a single piece trigger shoe with a trigger safety tab, and it folds down just like the majority of stock triggers that you might see. Once pressed in, we've got about 1/4 of an inch of take up, and then we've got a hard wall, and that hard wall has just a little bit of grit creep past it, And then we've got our 4.5-pound brake. Now notice I said grit creep. What do I mean by that? Smith and Wesson triggers are notoriously gritty. There's just, you can feel the rub on there. And I think it's because the trigger shoes themselves are plastic and the tolerances allow them to touch the frame a little bit. Now on this version of the trigger, it is much less noticeable than it was in the old cantilever style. However, you do still feel it. Now, does that matter in quick fire? Take a look later on and you can watch the quick fire. Personally, I don't think it does. There's a point in triggers where it does matter, and that point is so far below the majority of modern striker fire triggers that today we're just nitpicking. But it does have some grit. It's got a nice wall, it's got a nice brake, but you're gonna feel that movement. Continuing on up the Smith & Wesson, we do have their standard stainless steel slide with their glorious side serrations. I have always loved the slide serrations on the M&P. They are just excellent slide serrations for being relatively subtle. They're stylized, but they're not like huge. I do think the Walther PDP's side serrations are a little bit better, but they are big slide serrations. These are not, and these are pretty darn good. As I said before, we do have an optics cut here. This is an optics ready model, and then we've got our co-witnessing height metal sights. Also, one of my favorite features, metal magazines. Moving on to the Glock Gen 5. I know I don't need to go over this for most of you. You've seen a million of these, but for those of you who haven't, let's start from the bottom. The Glock's grip texturing is okay. It's adequate, it does the job, but it's nothing to write home about. It stops a little bit shy on the back strap here. It wraps around the front, but the front is actually feeling less aggressive than the sides. It's okay. It does the job, but it ain't getting any awards. The Glock does have replaceable back straps that you can change the shape a little bit, so it's got that versatility very similar to the M&P. We have those same ambidextrous slide stop slide release, and let's talk about the trigger. So the trigger in the Gen 5 Glock is improved from the Gen 4s and Gen 3s. It is. It is better. Is it great? No. Is it serviceable? Most definitely. The trigger is no longer really a sticking point with Glocks. You can use a stock Glock trigger and be proficient with it. That being said, let's go over the profile a little bit. So we've got our same safety tab here in the middle. Doesn't move nearly as much as the M&P, but it is thinner than the M&P, which makes it a little bit less comfortable in firing. Depressing that, let's go ahead and pull back, and we've got a smoother but heavier travel on the Glock here. It's about that same 1/4 inch to the wall, and then we've got a relatively sloppy stack till the wall and that 5.5-pound brake on my particular model. One thing I forgot to talk about the Smith, so we'll go back to that here in just a second, is the reset on the Glock. It is tactile and audible. You can see that little bit of push right back on the wall, back to the brake. The reset on the Smith coming back out. We've got not quite as tactile, not quite as audible, but it is a little bit more positive, pushes your finger a little bit out more, and again, right on that wall, right to the brake. Now with the Glock moving up from that, we've got the Glock slide serrations. They're adequate. It's kind of like the grip texture. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It'll do the job. I do wish they'd change the profile on it a little bit, maybe widen them up, maybe deepen them. I don't know what the solution is, but I would like to see them address that in the next revision. And then we've got the sights. Now these are the Ameriglow sights. They are a stock upgrade. Stock Glock sights, which I actually will take to the range here to be able to shoot against the Smith & Wesson, because that's what the MOS models come with, are significantly worse than these. The profiles are still okay, but they're plastic single dot front and U-notched white U thing in the rear. I don't know exactly what to call them, but I don't like them. Primarily because they're plastic. I could get over the dot and the U eventually, but the fact that they're plastic is just frustrating on a $550+ gun. Plastic sights just shouldn't exist. Now again, the Glock goes for between $550 for the base model, up to about $600 to $650 for the MOS version. With that, you get a hard pistol case, all of the optics plates, removable back straps, and with the Glock, 3 magazines. They are the standard plastic ones. Let's go ahead and hit the range now to see how these guns fare in actual use. Okay guys, so we're out here on the range now with the M&P and the Glock 19. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go ahead and shoot a mag through each one of these, and then I'll give you a breakdown of how they shoot. Then we'll go ahead and load another mag into each one of these, and I'll take turns alternating between the two to let you guys know what the differences are in their shooting profile. Then we'll do a little bit of a time test between the two to see how well each one of them shoots against a clock. First up, let's go ahead and shoot a mag through the M&P. So for a compact, the M&P shoots really smoothly. It's not as snappy as a lot of like the cheaper compacts. It's about as snappy as the other compacts in its price range, such as the Glock 19, the P10, but the grip texturing on the M&P is really good. It's a really grippy grip texture. I've said in my comparison with the G3 from Taurus that the grip texturing on the Taurus is really good. It's just not in the right places. The M&P does both of those things. It's got really good grip texturing, and it's got it in the right places. It drives it just a little bit more up the back strap, which really helps seat your hand in there. It's got a nice defined rear beaver tail, which lets you know exactly where your hand needs to be. The sights on the M&P are really well profiled. I don't like that they're 3-dot, but these are, after all, not intended to be your primary sighting system, as this is an optics-ready gun. But the profile on them with a nice thin front post and the wider rear really gives you a good sight profile when you're looking through them, using them properly, not in the 3-dot aspect. Let's go ahead and shoot the Glock 19 now, and I'll let you guys know how it shoots. I don't want to have to go like this every time I drop a mag. So the Glock 19, the tried and true, as always, shoots really nicely. The Glock sights are not as good as the M&P sights. They're not co-witness with the optic. The profile's just not quite as good. I wish they'd just leave the back blacked out rather than having that weird U thing in them, but whatever. The Glock's grip texturing is not quite as nice as the M&P's. It's not quite as grippy, and it doesn't go quite as far back up the back strap to be able to grab your hand as well, but it is significantly better than a lot of the grip texturing out there. Let's just say the Glock's grip pattern is adequate. Reciprocation on the Glock is, as always, nice and smooth, relatively low recoil for its size, and just in general, the 19 is a really well-shooting gun. Let's go ahead and take some shots between the two now. I'll go ahead and load up 2 mags. We'll shoot some shots through one, some shots through the other, and I'll give you some ideas of the differences in how each one of these guns shoots. So we'll go 19 first, then we'll swap over to the M&P. Alright, so, between the two guns, the 19 actually recoils a little bit less. However, in this cold weather where my hands are just really, they're tired and they're kind of sore, and the grip texturing on the M&P actually lets me keep it planted a little bit better. So the 19 slipped around a little bit more, despite it recoiling a little bit less, which is kind of weird, but kind of nifty. Just really shows you how all well-rounded your gun really needs to be a solid performer. So next up, let's go ahead and do a time trial with these. We've got 2 targets out here, one at 10 yards, one at 25 yards. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take 5 shots on the 10 yard, and then 2 shots on the 25 yard, and we're gonna time those between these 2 guns, and then we'll get back to you with the results. All right, so let's go ahead and do the M&P first. Again, we've got 5 shots on the 10 yard and 2 shots on the 25 yard. Now, the M&P sights are off a little bit. It shoots a little bit left right now. So take that into account for the 25 yarder. Okay, so for the M&P, we've got 453. All right, now let's go ahead and do the 19. All right, and with the 19, we've got a 405. All right, so our results on our timing here are the M&P was about a half a second slower than the 19. Now, it did take me a little bit longer to get set up on that far target with this one because I had to aim off to the side a little bit, but it does just go to show you how nice and smooth the 19 shoots. It shot that first round on the first target, the close one, quicker with no misses. But I still can really appreciate what Smith has done with the M&P 2.0 here. They've done a lot of improvements that has made this an actual competent firearm. Especially with the M&P 1.0, I would never have put it in the running against the current competition. The M&P 2.0 with the original trigger was better, but still not great. This version, I think, actually belongs where it's at in the competition, and I think it does a pretty good job. So that's our comparison of the Glock 19 to the M&P 2.0 Compact. If you like this video, do me a favor and hit like down below. If you like what we do here on the channel and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. If you want to help out a little bit, head over to workthetrigger.com. Over there, you can find coupon codes, affiliate codes. You'll find a link to our merch and a link to our 3D printed gun accessories. If you're interested in holsters for either one of these guns, head over to harrysholsters.com. Over there, you're going to be looking for the Singleton and use the code WORKTHETRIGGER for 10% off. Thanks, guys, for watching. I appreciate every one of you. And until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.